Hello and welcome to another video. So we're going to do something a little different this time. Obviously not the deck, but in the way I'm going to do this, I've played a few games out with this deck and I've got the replays and we're just going to go over those. That way I can pick and choose different clips, whatever else. Just makes things a little more easy. We'll just see how you guys like that and we'll get right into this. So we're obviously mid-shadow, very obvious. Most cancerous deck on ladder right now, probably next to Dragon. No shame in playing it, honestly. I couldn't care less. I'll play whatever works, but we built up the Demon Lords not that long ago, so I thought why not do this as a video soon. I just wanted to make sure I had enough play testing with it to give at least a basic overview of the deck. I'm not a Shadow expert, so I don't know everything about the deck, but my personal tech-in is 2 Goblins because I wanted more 1-drops to go along with the Catacomb, which I haven't pulled off that much compared to what I'd expect. I was hoping, 1-2 Catacomb, above 50% of the time, but I'm about 30% that I pull that off, and when you do, normally you do win. The other big combos is Death Breath, Hector, and Zombie Party being the 3. I actually haven't used the Immortal Thane at all in the last few games, which is weird. But other than that, the standard stuff, Skull Beast, Reapers, a couple Soul Squashers, Lurching Corpse is just solid because they don't tend to remove it, meaning Catacomb can usually get a target on 2. The Orthoris always being a great staple because of the extra 2 damage. I run double Serb. You could really run 3 and probably drop, I don't know, one of nearly any of the 3s that aren't major, Bone Chimera, maybe even Orthoris to 2, quite easily, to run an extra Cerberus. Other than that, I think that's the basic idea of the deck. Most of you will already know the deck, so that's all great. We'll go right into the replays here. So I'll show you a couple of the last ones. I had a really big loss streak in the middle here, which is kind of depressing, honestly. And while that's a loss, that was really close and probably what I'll show you last, so hopefully look forward to that. So the first game we'll look at is this one. And then we'll go up and then we'll head back. It's a little confusing, but at least it's a nice setup. So we have Shadowverse Dragon. Pretty straightforward matchup. Shadow seems to have a huge advantage against Dragon overall just because the aggro can easily outdo the ramp in a lot of cases. I chose to drop Death Breath. Having Catacomb opening hand was a great advantage. The Lurching Corpse is a great thing to have along with the Catacomb. I actually prefer playing the Lurching over the Sergeant personally. And as you'll see in this game very soon, see I play out that, then I'm pretty sure going to Bone Chimera purely because they passed turn 2. If they had played something, I probably would have dropped Catacomb, but because they didn't, they kind of opened up a play for me to go with the extra. So they didn't really play anything else here, which just let me drop Catacomb for free, giving me the 1-2, a little bit of damage. They haven't been able to ramp yet, so they haven't been able to use that until now. But that did force out a Skeleton, which is pretty good, gain a Shadow, which sets up for the Death Breath later on. The Rehab is a little bit of a problem. You need to find the most effective way to remove that, which can be a little difficult. I personally, went with this. I dropped the Orthoris. I thought if that hits the 1-2, I can just evolve it, ram the 1-drop anyway, which would have cost me about the same amount of value, I guess. Fortunately, it didn't hit that and it lined up quite nicely. So the next play from here, I'm pretty sure I go for after this Cyclone, is to make sure I can get rid of that Cyclone pretty easily. They do kill the Bone Chimera, which I didn't see as a big issue. Getting 3 Skeletons out of a Bone Chimera is just insane amount of value. Drawing the the Hector, I'll make sure I get the pronunciation right for you guys, was really critical here. Because I drew that, it meant that things like Death Breath and Catacomb, it didn't matter. Doesn't matter what they play now, that Catacomb is pretty much going to guarantee me lethal, which I'm pretty sure is exactly how this ended up going. So they play Israfil clears the board, summons a bunch of Skeletons. Pretty great play overall. Luckily they played Brazen Breath, even though it didn't matter because I was going to trade a Skeleton to be able to drop Hector anyway. Then pretty much just drop Hector for 12. With the Skeletons basically getting a full army. Not a really bad drop overall. And that's the kind of combos you're looking for, a way that you can set up basically set up the Shadow so you can set up Death's Breath and then set up Hector. With Catacomb being kind of the pinnacle of that combination of cards. The next game here was over reasonably quickly. So, let's see. Pretty sure this is the other game. I'm pretty sure I clicked on the other one first, so... Yep. So I dropped the Cerberus and the Zombie Party. Kind of hard mulligan for that Catacomb, which I didn't manage to get, but I do have the Skull Beast and the Sergeant, which I like as a 1-2 drop. Just because it does curve out pretty nicely. Unfortunately here, I'm pretty sure they do drop... No, they don't drop anything turn 1, sorry. Turn 1 they don't drop anything, and then I get a free Sergeant, which is great. Which is why this game went pretty quickly. They do try and ramp, which I didn't view as much of a problem. I basically had to drop Bone Chimera for nothing. Basically allowing me to have an extra 2 1/1s, which is nice. They drop a little Cyclone. Not too worried about that. I do draw into Hector again, which I'm like, yes, that's the perfect card to have for this kind of play. So that's really what you search for. I did end up just, yeah, sacrificing the 1/1, mainly for shadows. Because I knew even if they found a way to get rid of this, which they couldn't because it was turn 5 and they wouldn't have had enough to get full board clear on it easily anyway. And fortunately, because of Sybil not being able to heal, I was able to drop Soul Squasher, get rid of their Sybil, evolve, and deal a huge chunk of damage, basically making this Hector lethal pretty easily. I'm pretty sure they actually concede here. Yeah. So even without that, obviously I had nothing else. The last chance would have been a full board clear, which I probably would have just set up Hector. Probably set up Hector a second time, and hope they didn't have enough to deal with it. Obviously I got a little bit lucky. Now I'll show you the game I actually lost. It was a mid-shadow mirror. Obviously slightly different because I'm running goblins. I didn't see them play any, so slightly different variant. As goblins is kind of my personal preference so far. So, I do lose this match overall, but it does outline really well how mid-shadow works. Especially when you consider it, basically it's a 50-50 win rate for mirror matches. With the player who can basically drop Catacomb first having a huge advantage. And unfortunately, I wasn't the player to do that. I'm pretty sure they curve out really nicely after turn 3. I think, maybe? Maybe not. Maybe I'm going crazy, who knows. No, it's that Bone Chimera, that's right. The Bone Chimera really, I think, screws me over. Because I think, yeah, I made the mistake of attacking the Bone Chimera when I probably should have just left it up. Which allowed them to easily drop Catacomb and gain an extra skeleton than they would have had. Which was quite unfortunate. I'm pretty sure I go for the double Shadow Reaper and I drop Zombie Party just as an extra clear. Do I? No, I keep it, sorry. My mistake. So it's just unfortunate that they had the better draw, I had the poorer hand, which overall basically leads to how I did get defeated. And I'm pretty sure they pull the... I don't know whether it's Zombie Party or Death's Breath with Hector. Can't remember which one they pulled in this game. But if you are looking for something to climb, this deck is highly recommended. I would give it probably tier 1, tier 0, depending on how you want to rank things. I personally only go up to tier 1, so I would say this is easily the top tier deck, and unless something changes in the next month or so, I reckon this will go all the way through the next expansion. And I know most of you guys already experienced this, but mostly I'm just going over this deck for people who don't know how to play it, haven't looked at playing it, or are just interested in playing it. Obviously the biggest weakness to this deck, which I'll go over now, is having your board constantly cleared, as you can see here. Having a weak board state means you're unable to pull off any decent combination. Also board clears, which you have to be careful of dragging with. If you don't out-aggro them in the early game, they will probably board clear you in the late game, basically steamrolling you from then on. Same thing with things like Blood. Sword, you don't need to worry too much. Usually you can just ram face. The only problem there could be wards, so you got to be a little careful of those from what I've experienced. But other than that, usually you can pull off, you know, a decent amount of wins. It's definitely, I would say, the strongest deck at the moment. And making sure to keep an eye on shadow amounts and setting up for Hector combos. Mostly you can just curve out up to say turn 3, turn 4 before you have to start considering which trades are the most beneficial for you. And obviously they had a fucking huge Shadow Reaper, which was a problem. I really hated that, but there wasn't much I could do about that, unfortunately. And that's the kind of combo they went for, basically a double Hector with a giant Shadow Reaper that I just couldn't deal with because I didn't get to keep any board. So I hope you guys enjoyed this style of video. I'm probably going to make the next couple videos like this, so hopefully that's alright. If you guys do enjoy it, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and maybe even just leave a comment saying that you enjoyed this style and you want to see more in this style, or do I stick with what I normally do? So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, obviously hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. See ya.